What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. In this video we are unpacking the absolute earthquake happening in the professional gaming scene right now, as Saudi Arabia essentially buys out the entire competitive landscape. If you find this breakdown helpful or interesting, please consider hitting that subscribe button and leaving a like. It helps push the channel in the algorithm, and I am incredibly grateful for your support. Grab a snack, get comfortable, and let's get right into it. To truly understand why Saudi Arabia has suddenly become the absolute center of the esports universe, we first need to take a hard look at the reality of the Western esports industry. For the last few years, competitive gaming has been going through a massive financial crisis that insiders call the esports winter. I think a good analogy of the Western esports industry is a massive luxurious cruise ship that was built during a massive economic boom. It had the biggest parties, the finest dining, and absolutely everyone wanted a ticket to get on board. But the builders were so focused on making it look incredible that they forgot to put an actual engine inside it. They just relied on the strong winds of venture capital and crypto sponsorships to push them forward. When those winds suddenly stopped blowing in 2022 and 2023, the ship was left stranded in the middle of the ocean, slowly running out of supplies and sinking. Then, out of nowhere, a massive superyacht pulls up, throws them a tow line and says, "We will pull you the rest of the way, but we get to steer the ship." That is exactly what Saudi Arabia is doing with professional esports right now. For years, legendary American esports organizations have been bleeding money. They were paying massive esports salaries to pro gamers, renting out incredible training facilities in LA, and trying to build lifestyle brands, but the actual revenue from selling jerseys and getting sponsorships just wasn't enough to cover the bills. Let's look at a prime example, Team Solomid or TSM. They were once the absolute kings of North American League of Legends. But by late 2023, the financial toll of operating in the LCS became too much, and they actually sold their franchise slot to Shopify Rebellion for a reported $10 million just to stop bleeding cash. Another massive fan favorite, Sentinels, faced similar terrifying realities. Despite winning huge international tournaments in Valorant and having the most popular players on the planet, financial reports showed the organization faced a $16 million loss over a 2-year span. They had to rely on a massive $16.5 million injection from investors, and even launched a crowdfunding campaign where fans could buy shares of the company just to keep the lights on, hoping to finally break even by 2025 or 2026. This financial collapse was incredibly evident in games like Call of Duty. As we have seen, a lot of organizations in the CDL expected to make huge returns right away, but quickly cut back on expenses. In the 2025 to 2026 season, Cloud9 New York, who only joined the CDL just a year ago, cut back so much that they no longer use a team house, and are paying professional players as little as $2,000 a month on their Black Ops 7 roster. At one point they were even struggling to get a roster for Stage 2 of the CDL Pro season, since many past pros rejected offers. In the end, they were only able to build a team of AMs who have been really struggling in their first couple of matches, to the point where some teams are reportedly not taking them serious at all or may not even want to scrim them for practice. It's a terrible situation for the players especially and their fans. The esports industry was desperately looking for a lifeline, and they found it in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia didn't just step into the gaming culture. They arrived with an open checkbook and a master plan known as Vision 2030. Spearheaded by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Vision 2030 is an initiative designed to diversify the country's economy away from oil and turn the nation into a global hub for entertainment and digital innovation. To execute this, the Saudi Public Investment Fund, or PIF, created the Savvy Games Group. They pledged to invest a staggering $38 billion into the gaming and esports sector. Let that number sink in. $38 billion. To put that into perspective, in 2022 they bought ESL and Faceit, the two largest tournament organizers in the world, for $1.5 billion and merged them into the ESL Faceit group. Overnight, Saudi Arabia owned the infrastructure that runs almost every major third-party tournament in the world. But they didn't stop at buying tournament organizers. They are physically building the future of esports in the desert. They are constructing Qiddiya, a massive entertainment megacity located just outside of Riyadh. This isn't just a couple of buildings. Qiddiya will span over 360 square kilometers and will feature an entire district completely dedicated to gaming and esports. We are talking about 43 different sports facilities, cutting-edge arenas with over 73,000 seats specifically designed to host global esports events, and gaming-themed hotels where pro gamers and fans can stay. They want to attract 10 million visits a year just for gaming. This massive physical infrastructure needed a flagship event, which brings us to the crown jewel of their strategy, the Esports World Cup. Originally starting as a summer festival called Gamers 8, it was rebranded into the Esports World Cup for 2024. This isn't just a normal tournament, it is an 8-week-long festival that takes over Riyadh and features the most insane prize pools the industry has ever seen. For the inaugural 2024 event, the total prize pool was over $60 million. For 2025, they shattered their own record, announcing a total prize pool of over $70 million. The scope of this event is impossible for Western tournament organizers to compete with. But the real genius of the Esports World Cup isn't just the prize money for winning, it is the club support program. The EWC Foundation created a program where they selected 40 of the biggest esports organizations in the world, and basically handed them direct funding just to participate. The program distributed $20 million directly to these clubs. To get a piece of this massive pie, organizations are incentivized to pick up rosters in as many different games as possible, because the EWC features a cross-game club championship. If your organization performs the best across multiple different titles, your team wins the overarching club championship, which pays out an additional $7 million to the winning org. For legacy esports teams that were struggling to pay their staff just a year prior, this Saudi money wasn't just a nice bonus, it was literally the difference between bankruptcy and survival. Because of this club championship format, organizations started panic buying rosters in games they never previously cared about. Which brings us to the games themselves. The Esports World Cup features over 24 different titles. We are talking about everything from Street Fighter 6 and Dota 2 to massive mainstream shooters. Despite the internal struggles with teams like Cloud9 in the CDL, the broader Call of Duty ecosystem got a massive boost from Riyadh. Historically, the Call of Duty League has been entirely localized in North America and tightly controlled by Activision. But in late 2024, the Call of Duty League signed a massive 3-year partnership with the Esports World Cup Foundation. This deal officially sanctions a massive tournament for Call of Duty in Riyadh every summer, expanding the CDL calendar and pumping millions of dollars into the scene. Fortnite has also seen massive investments. During the 2024 Esports World Cup, the Fortnite tournament featured a $1.05 million prize pool. Organizations like XSET, Exceed, and Heroic battled it out for massive payouts, giving competitive Fortnite players a much-needed massive payday outside of the standard FNCS circuit run by Epic Games. But perhaps the biggest shockwave came from Valorant. Riot Games has historically kept a complete stranglehold on their esports ecosystems. A few years ago, the League of Legends European Championship announced a sponsorship with NEOM, a Saudi Arabian city project. The backlash from the community and the broadcast talent was so overwhelmingly negative due to human rights concerns that Riot actually canceled the partnership within 24 hours. Fast forward to today, and the financial reality of the esports winter has changed everything. Riot Games recently announced a 3-year partnership with the Esports World Cup, allowing League of Legends, Teamfight Tactics, and for the very first time Valorant to be played at the event in Riyadh. The 2025 EWC will feature a $1.25 million Valorant tournament. When asked about the partnership, Riot admitted that giving players and teams more opportunities to earn money and compete on a big stage was necessary for the survival and growth of the scene. This massive influx of cash has completely warped esports pay and the expectations for esports careers. Because Saudi Arabia isn't just hosting tournaments, they are fielding their own super teams. The most prominent example is Team Falcons. Backed by heavy Saudi investment, Team Falcons has been aggressively buying up the best players in the world across multiple titles. In the 2024 Esports World Cup, Team Falcons absolutely dominated, winning the club championship by securing top finishes in Call of Duty Warzone, Free Fire, and Apex Legends. But their spending in Counter-Strike 2 is what truly broke the internet. Team Falcons built an absolute super team by buying out legendary players and legendary coaches. Reports surfaced that they were offering players like Nico up to €60,000 a month, and some industry insiders estimate that their CS2 roster costs a staggering $240,000 a month just in salaries. When you compare this to American organizations who are actively dropping rosters and cutting player salaries in half just to survive, the contrast is mind-blowing. Western orgs simply cannot compete with a team backed by a sovereign wealth fund that doesn't actually need to turn a profit. So this brings us to the ultimate question: is Saudi Arabia the last hope for the esports industry? For many fans and critics, this is a textbook case of sports washing. They argue that the Saudi government is using the popularity of gaming culture and pro gamers to distract the global youth from the country's controversial human rights record. They point out that injecting billions of dollars into an ecosystem without a sustainable way to make that money back creates an artificial bubble. If the Saudi government ever decides that they have achieved their PR goals and pulls the funding, the entire esports industry could collapse overnight because it has become entirely dependent on this oil money. But on the flip side, team owners and players have a much more pragmatic view. Without this Saudi money, many of the teams we know and love would simply not exist right now. The traditional venture capital well dried up, advertising budgets shrank, and game publishers were cutting back on esports funding. The Esports World Cup and the Savvy Games Group provided a lifeline when nobody else was willing to write a check. For a pro gamer who has dedicated their entire life to mastering a game, earning a stable, life-changing salary is a priority, and right now, Riyadh is the only place offering that kind of security. Whether you view it as a hostile takeover or a necessary salvation, the reality is that the financial center of competitive gaming has permanently shifted from LA and Berlin to Riyadh. The next decade of esports will be defined by the Vision 2030 project, and it will be fascinating to see if this massive gamble pays off, or if it creates an even bigger bubble waiting to burst. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, as it took me a lot of work to make this video, so your support would be greatly appreciated. Don't forget to take care, brush your hair, and I'll catch you all in the next one.